Thank you so much for coming tonight. As you probably know, we lost Reverend Friend. He died of prostate cancer on July 29th of this year, and kind of unexpectedly. So we're here tonight to honor him, as well as to honor all of those people who died on 9/11, and to honor all of America's fallen heroes who have given their lives for America and for freedom. So thank you so much for coming. We have pledged that we will carry on Reverend Friend's work as best we can in all ways that we can, and this is one of his works. His love was building this empty chair memorial, was honoring our soldiers, was honoring those people who died on 9/11, who gave up their lives because of terrorism, and people who hated America and gave up their lives for freedom. And this was part of his work, and by you being here tonight with us, you are helping us carry on his work, and we deeply appreciate all of you. We deeply appreciate it. So we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Scott is going to lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare that was bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, save us that star-spangled banner yet wave, for the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Let's join together in a moment of silence to honor all those who were killed by terrorism on 9/11, and all those who have given their lives for our country and for freedom, and to honor Reverend Maitreya Friend. Our friend Wally, who is a dear friend of Reverend Friend's, he knew Reverend Friend since when, Wally? 20 years? 25 years. He used to meet us for breakfast at the Parasol restaurant in Torrance, when there was still a Parasol restaurant, and we've seen Wally throughout many years, and he gave us this bell tonight and said, whenever you ring it, remember Reverend Friend. So we'd like to start by playing a few words of a couple years ago at the Empty Chair Memorial Ceremony on the Saturday before Memorial Day that Reverend Friend spoke to all of us.
Above all, the men and women who have given their lives, sacrificed their lives selflessly for our freedom, are the people who we are here to remember today. Now, you know, it's really hard for a minister not to preach. But I'm not going to preach. But there is one thing that I do want to say. It is my absolute conviction that God made freedom the highest quality of every soul. And that freedom comes in 5 faces, like a diamond. Free will, free choice, self-determinism, individual freedom, and this little guy here that everybody would like to forget about, absolute, inescapable personal responsibility. But that freedom that he has placed within us cannot be suppressed. It can be put down for a time, but it can't be suppressed for long. I used to live down here in Catalina. I had what's called now called the Morel House. It's up at 190th and Flagler. And we had an old tin shed out behind the house. And I'd go out there and get my bicycle out once a week. And you had this old tin doors, and you'd open them. There was an asphalt driveway. And one day I noticed the door didn't open quite right. It scraped on the ground. I thought, well, maybe the property had shifted. Maybe the building was ready to fall down. It was so old. And I watched this thing over a period of time. And about 4 weeks later, I noticed that I could barely get the door open. I had to use the other door. And one day, I don't know how long it was, maybe about 2 months later, as I was going out there, I looked down, and the asphalt had cracked. And up through this asphalt came one single blade of grass. That blade of grass wanted the sun so badly that it pushed its way up through that asphalt and found it. And I believe that that's how we are as human beings. We crave freedom so much that tyrants and dictators can do all they want to try and oppress us. They can hold us down for a time, but they will never, ever, ever keep us down.
Woo! Yeah! Woo!
Thomas Jefferson, and I'm going to paraphrase him to keep it short. I don't think any of you have ever heard the full quote. Probably heard the short version. Thomas Jefferson said that the tree of liberty must be watered by the blood of patriots and tyrants. And that's not the full quote. If you've never read the full quote, read it. It'll really surprise you. We're here today to honor the men and women who watered that tree with their blood. I have this chair empty for a reason. In the veterans groups and other groups, when there's a dinner or a meeting of some sort, they always leave a chair empty for the guys and the gals who didn't make it back home. This chair is empty for that reason, and I'll tell you, it's been in my yard for a long time, about 6 years. But sometimes when I'm driving down Broadway, coming down this way, and the sun is just going down and the light is just right, if I can say this without choking up a little bit, I swear I see a soldier sitting in that chair. And I am so honored and so humbled to be able to have this memorial here in my front yard. And I'm so honored and humbled to have you here come and join with us, join with me in honoring these great men and women. Over 1.4 million men and women have given their lives so that we can stand here in freedom without watching our backs for a secret policeman and without worrying about somebody taking us out from a rooftop. And God bless them. I hope we remember them. I hope we will all remember them every day of our lives. Just say a little prayer in the morning, whatever your religion, I don't care. Or even if you don't have a religion. In the morning, just get up in the morning and look at the world and say, thank you guys, thank you gals, for everything that you've done for us.
I received a pamphlet in the mail just a couple days ago from the mortuary who put on the funeral, or helped us put on the funeral for Reverend Friend. And I know it was done in all the best, goodness of their hearts. But one thing really bothered me about it, because what they said in it is that you should do everything that you can do to try to forget the last days of your loved one, of the time that you spent in the hospital, of the time that you spent holding their hands, and the time that you spent looking in their eyes for the last time. And they said you should do everything you can do to try to remember only the good times, to keep yourself up. But that wasn't right. I don't want to not remember all the times that I had with Reverend Friend, including the hard times, the difficult times, his last days. And I think that's the reason that we are all here tonight, because we are the people who refuse to forget. We are the people who refuse to forget that people died for freedom on 9/11, that people jumped off the tops of buildings because they didn't want to be consumed by flames. And we're not afraid to look at that and remember that, and remember the sacrifices that all of America's fallen heroes have made for our sakes and for our freedoms, and to think about the soldiers as they lay dying on the battlefield, crying out for their mothers And none of us are afraid to do that. And we are all here to honor those who gave their lives for our freedoms. And that's so important. And that's how Reverend Friend lived his life. You know, he honored every single soul in the world today and in the past. All of the mercies that God has sent to mankind that sacrificed their lives for the freedom, because of the freedom of religion, the freedom to worship, the freedom to speak, all of the different freedoms. That's what he lived his life for. And he made some pretty big sacrifices himself. He sacrificed his own freedom to come back to this world and to help anyone who wanted help find their way home to God. And so he made a very big sacrifice himself. He gave up the greatest freedom there ever could be to give up perfect oneness with God and come back here. And then he dedicated his life towards freeing people, to upholding spiritual freedom for all people. We saw a movie last night. What was the name of it? For Greater Glory. If you haven't seen it, I encourage you to see it. It's about the Mexican people who rose up when the Mexican government in the 1920s tried to suppress the Catholic Church. And they fought for their religion. And I know that if Reverend Friend had been there during that time, he would have been, even though he's not Catholic, he would have been standing right there with them fighting for spiritual freedom, because that's what he believed in. And I'm just so happy to have you all here tonight and to know that you know, we're all together, united, indivisible in our love for this country, for freedom, and for all those who sacrificed for it. So thank you very much. And I'd like to open up the mic now, and if you'd like to come up either to speak in the mic, or I'll do what Reverend Friend did. He started to pass the mic around last year, and so if the mic ends up in your hands, you might have to say a few words, or you could pass it along to someone else. But please, if you have a prayer that you'd like to say, if you have something in your heart that you just want to express.
I'd just like to say thank you to all of you, and especially my lady here. Oh. Thank you for everything. And thank you for all the good work you're doing and carrying on the torch and everything like that. I think you all understand what I'm trying to get at. Thanks to John, who's here before us, and he's always in our hearts and on a day-to-day basis. I've known him from a few decades before, so him and I are on another level. But the point being, we all had a good time, enjoying those wonderful times that were memorable. And these things about forgetting, I'm with you. I think what you have to do is write your legislators, say, take these mortuary people and give them some brain scrubbing. Just start scrubbing the wax between the ears or something. You know, so the point being is, somebody else should come up and relieve me of your pain.
Yeah, I agree. There is I started college in the mid-'60s, and I followed the usual format of traditional to liberal, and I remained from the early '70s to the early mid-'90s in a state of basically disregard for the United States and the true greatness that we are. I see it even really today in the world events surrounding us, and you can look at Egypt and Libya today, and there's really an assault on the American institution, the assault on American greatness, and I see a lack of resolve in the current administration to do something positive about it. What we can do as Americans are to support the good people in the world, because evil people hate good people. And America is a good country. We are composed largely of very, very good people, and we need to support others around the world. And sometimes I don't see that. And we have to maintain our resolve to help. Israel is a prime example of a country who is stalwart, who is righteous, who helps its own citizens, even if they're Muslim and not Jewish, and they are simply not appreciated. So whatever we can do as citizens of this country, we can support the best people in the world. That really is our duty, and I know Reverend Friend would probably give me a high five. In fact, he will. You know, we'll get back there and he'll give me a high five. But that's really what this must be all about. Some night like this on 9/11, when so many people lost their lives, through nothing more than simply going to work, and then 11 years later, I see the lack of resolve in much of our major institutions to really continue the noble fight against tyranny. And America is about fighting the good fight, and we must never give up.
My name's Ray, and I live here in Hollywood Riviera for the last 7 years. And basically, I came here from Canada when I was 15 months old. In the 50s, with my parents, they were looking for the promised land. Basically, the promised land was someplace with sunshine. And they found it here in Englewood, and that's where I grew up. Went to a Catholic school, and had a good education. Went to Englewood High School. Went to Cal State Fullerton, did everything that, American people do, but I was always loving America, but I always loved Canada as well. And I never became an American citizen. When my parents, when I became 18 and I moved to Hawaii, my parents, about when I was 20, both became American citizens. But at that time, I would have to go and become an American citizen. It wouldn't automatically happen to me. Well, the morning of 9/11 was the huge change for me. I took this country kind of the way a lot of people do, for granted. And it's a great country, I knew that. And I actually have a business for the last 25 years here. And I'm thankful that really that can happen in America. I came from a very wealthy and wonderful country. So I didn't come from poverty, but I'm in the greatest country in the world. 9/11 happened, and at that point I knew I wanted to become an American citizen. I wanted to be part of this wonderful country. I want to be able to vote. I want to be able to participate. I care about who becomes your elected officials. I care about what we vote for. I talk to all my friends and let them know how I feel. I became an American. My son enlisted in the Marine Corps. He too is proud to be here. He is an American because my son and my daughter were both born in the United States. My wife is born in the United States. She's from Manhattan Beach. But now I fly a flag in my yard with a Marine Corps flag. I fly a flag at my business. I fly a flag on every one of my trucks. And there's no doubt what I believe. And if there's a question, just ask me. I mean, I'll let you know. My mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, all of them are union members. So they don't feel the same way I do about the country. But I don't want to bust anybody's chops. All I want you to do is think about really what's important to you. What are the issues that you care about? Is the issue God and the platform? Is the issue abortion? Is the issue a train that goes to San Francisco? What's the important issue? And if the important issue is really in your heart, then you should vote how you feel. It doesn't really matter about parties. It matters on how you feel about issues. And that's a hard thing to pass on, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. Even with my son, there's a kind of a talk about that, and my daughter and my wife, obviously, and my mother-in-law and all those, people. But it's interesting that we often take voting for granted. We just vote. We don't know who we're voting for. We just vote for a D or an R. We vote for judges who we have no clue how they would judge. It would be nice if we knew. So it's important that we find out. Go on the internet, find out, do some research, because it's very important and your vote counts. And God bless America.
We heard Reverend Friend passed away. I know, just really, I think we are all, very sad. I mean, just like, wow, we lost a good one. It's just a little dimmer. That's how I felt. But I'm glad we're here. This is, even though it's a very solemn occasion, it's also remembering Reverend Fran and carrying on with what I know I'm sure he would have wanted, he did want us to. And the other thing I would say is I'm very concerned for Israel. I know President Obama keeps saying, well, we have your back. Well, right now Israel's back is against the wall. There's nothing behind them anymore. There's no one who can stand behind them. I'm very concerned, and anything you have, any thoughts you have, or things you think we could do would be much appreciated in that regard. Thank you.
My name is Dee Dee. I'm from New York City. I was in New York the day of the 9/11 attacks. It was very traumatic being there, traumatic experience living in the city for the months and years after. And I did lose my cousin that day. He was a firefighter. He was on his way home from work and he got called back and he had to run in and do his job. And he left behind a wife and 2 kids and a lot of people that loved him very much, and he was a wonderful guy. His name was Michael Lynch, and I'm here because I'm really thinking of him today and his family and everyone that was affected by 9/11. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
I want to say 2 things. First of all, I loved Reverend Friend. I think all of you did. His journey was an amazing one to show all of us how to be a little bit better, and by being very good to all of us. And his spirit will live with us, but I wish he were here. And we do need to have these moments to remember it. And the second thing is, I graduated from college in 1968, and a fellow named Howard K. Smith, who was the anchor on ABC News, was the commencement speaker. And we're sitting there waiting to hear, go forth in the world. And he says, well, your generation has maybe to look forward to a time when America is not the best country in the world again. And even back then I said, what? And, obviously he didn't foresee a lot of the wonderful things that happened, like the internet and all the wonderful American inventions. And, Howard K. Smith is dead and America is alive and well. But as Ronald Reagan said, freedom and the life that we believe in is only one generation removed from extinction. And there is a part of the generation that we're part of here that doesn't believe we're the greatest country in the world, and thinks that we should come down a little bit and be more humbled, and somehow someone else, that's going to make someone else better. And I don't think there's another country in the world that wants the world to live as well as we want other people to live. That's why the blood of our soldiers are on their soil. They're not over here protecting us. We're over there protecting them. And this is a really important election, and it's a really important time in our world to see whether a righteous country will be strong again, as it has been in the past, or whether we're going to say, oh well, our time is come and gone, and we have to vote. We have to vote in November, and we have to stand strong and really speak up for what we believe in. God bless America.
Number one, the Democratic Party, especially the one in charge, and the Democrats that vote for them, are the minority party. And I'm speaking for this perspective. On both coasts of the United States is heavy blue communities. They elect these people, okay? The conservatives, though, all of America is red. All of California is red. The whole state is red. Honest to God, okay? And you people understand this. And this is so much that they're getting elected by a big majority of people. They're getting elected by the slimmest margins of people, but that's who puts them in office. And again, I'm not going to go on a campaign here about why the Republicans don't do better. We'll leave that for another day. But the truth of the matter is, they are not winning. It's that we lose. Okay, number one, we lose, number one. Number two, it's a minority that's winning and putting those people into governance, and governance making these rules. And if we lose another 4 years, the public, the very young, are going to learn big lessons that we took for granted. What happened to those days of having red, white, and blue in your blood at school, where you can say a pledge of allegiance to the, and say a Lord's Prayer. These days will be evaporated. And he's right with how we're one generation removed. So the truth of the matter is, just keeping in mind about the voting thing, if you're starting to talk to people like I do, especially the people who are independents, I'm a middle of the road kind of person. Republican, but middle of the road. But either way you look at it this way. Most of all, it isn't, even if they win, it isn't the majority that wants them. Look at us. Each one of us carries the real message.
Hi, I'm a follower of Maitreya, Reverend Friend. And I just want to bring this back to the spirit of why we're here, which is to honor all of those who died on 9/11 for our freedoms and all the families that had to suffer their loss. And to say that I know that we don't have Reverend Friend here physically. I know he's here in spirit with us tonight. He built everything for us to carry on his work, and we're going to do this every year to honor those who died on 9/11.
The beautiful thing about our country is that if you don't agree with somebody, you can always come up and speak your own mind, and that's what Reverend Friend believed in. And he used to have open mics at one of the local coffee houses, and we actually had one night a neo-Nazi guy come and start speaking neo-Nazi stuff at our coffee house, our nice, loving, peace and love coffee house. And Reverend Friend did not stop him. He said, "This is America. He has the right to speak his mind. If you do not like it, you come up here and you speak your mind. If you don't want to come up here and speak your mind, then he's going to have the floor." So that's the kind of man that Maitreya, Reverend Friend, was. You know, he wanted everybody, and he'd argue with you. If he didn't agree with you, he'd argue with you. And he expected that you'd argue back. And sometimes he got into really big branigans with people. And he made the best friends with the people that you would think they would be the worst enemies, and they'd end up hugging each other in the end, because he knew that at our core, we are one. We are indivisible. We are Americans, or if we're not all Americans, we are all soul, which is pure divine spirit, which is one and identical with God and with one another, and that is our uniting force. And so it doesn't matter whether we all agree. I mean, of course, our egos and our personalities are going to differ. That's the beauty of freedom. But we can all be united in our love for one another, for our country, for freedom, for truth, for justice, for America. Would anyone else like to come?
Good way to put it.
The thing that I always hear that I think is a lot of times is forgotten is we should always remember that there's, alongside our two-legged people, are four-legged ones. And so the next time that things come up, remember those guys are side by side with our soldiers out there, protecting them. A lot of them lose their lives protecting our soldiers. A lot of our soldiers come home because of these guys. So when things come up on the ballot and you're thinking about that pound being closed and they're saying it doesn't need to be here anymore, and you're thinking, they're just dogs, remember they're not, because they're over there fighting too, which these guys deserve a right to live also, because they're giving their lives also for us, and they give them when they go out there and rescue us and do search and rescue. They end up paying a price. They sniff all that up into their lungs and their nostrils, and they pay a price for going through what they go through to find us and to save us, and yet it's not their war. They wouldn't fight. It's our war, but they stand there toe-to-toe with us, so let's not forget them.
Hi, I'm Shanti, and I'm a Maitreyan follower of Reverend Friend, and tonight is especially hard because he's not here. And one of the things after 9/11 that he had said to me that really opened my eyes is that he said about firefighters is that, when everyone's running out of the building to get away from the fire, our firefighters are running into it. And that somehow just totally turned my head around, because it was like something I'd never really grasped or seen, that, they are giving their lives for us. And this morning when I was doing my Inner Divine Communion, I was asking Maitreya, well, what can I say tonight? Because I wanted to say something about him, and he told me to tell everyone that self-sacrifice is the highest religion, and that we live by the self-sacrifices of others and how important it is. And I truly wish he were here, and I do know that he is here with us in spirit. And he gave a big part of himself, he gave part of his home, and he built this memorial because of what he believed in and believes in. And I'm just glad that we're all here together. It means a lot to me and to Reverend Friend. Thank you.
I just got off work, so that's why I'm late. But I do want to sort of share what I do. I'm a massage therapist, and I get the privilege of helping those heal. And I've been able to meet some tremendous people who've shared some personal stories through 9/11. One in which is a man who actually started a nonprofit organization in North Carolina, and he was sharing with me that in the Vietnam War, post-traumatic stress disorder usually kicked in 9 years after the war, and he now said that the vets he's dealing with, the rate has gone up to 900%, which within 9 months now, they're getting a ton of vets who are dealing with this. And, you know, he mentioned a lot of his new clients are family members that, you know, have relocated into North Carolina from New York, and the family members that, you know, had experienced this. And that touched me a lot, and sort of inspired me to want to give back to the community as well. So what I do is, I'm a massage therapist, but I also do energy healing, and I offer that for free to anyone who's a cancer patient, or anyone that's dealing with PTSD. So if you or anyone you know would either like massage therapy or energy healing, you can definitely contact me. I would be more than happy to help, and that's all.
That's a really wonderful thing. I'm very, the soldiers, the men and women of the U.S. military are very dear to my heart. And if you are, there's a lot of them suffering from PTSD, and unfortunately there's suicides. There's a lot that they're suffering from. And if you are interested, like the VA hospital up in West Los Angeles, you can do volunteering there. They make it really easy. There's going to be like a internship for new, or you know, a little info session for new volunteers on the, I believe it's the 19th at 9 a.m. You can always call them. So there's a lot you can do, even just sorting books or helping if you like that. Or there's also Operation Gratitude, which is great in Van Nuys. And the great thing about doing this is that you can never walk out not feeling so much better than when you walk in. It's like a really incredible thing. And so if anyone's interested in that, I just wanted to pass that along. But also just a word of Reverend Friend and for this memorial. And it was funny, well, it's not funny, but it's been 11 years, and on September 11th, something that kind of consumed me was if people felt how the magnitude of this and the horror, you know what I mean, like the heartbreak of what happened to our country on that day. And it meant so much to see Reverend Friend doing this display, like a very public display, and to always on Veterans Day and Memorial Day, to always like, it seems like people are becoming a little like drinking the cup of forgetfulness, or they try to turn it into like a day of service. It's very important, like memory, to remember specifically, you know, what happened specifically. Like that clarity is really important to like pass along and to remember. And even if it's just like putting a Twitter out, like I noticed there seemed less of that. And I just, we're here and we're doing this in a very public way, and Reverend Friend gave us this beautiful ability to do that. So I just wanted to thank you all for being here, and to always just like keep the importance of what that was and what the battle was. And that's it. I will stop going on now, but thank you all again for being here.
Okay, we have our own American Idol here, Brianna Baker, who's going to grace us with a song.
If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom and we can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA. Well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. So the next song is God Bless America, and you can sing it if you want, if you know the words. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
I'd just like to end with one of Maitreya's favorite prayers. We usually sing it in Sanskrit, but I'll just pray it in the English form. Beloved universal God, all radiant universal light, as we turn our minds to you, fill our hearts and minds and lives with your clear light. From the unreal, lead us to the real. From darkness, lead us to the light. From death to immortality. Peace, peace, peace. Victory to that beloved universal I am that I am, which you are.